Hey, I'm Luce.
And I'm Will.
And we've been travelling in our 1987 Toyota Hiace named Joey for the last 3 years around Australia.
Over the last 3 years of travel, we have got heaps of questions from people on YouTube or Instagram or just other travellers that we've met on the road. So we thought we'd sit down and answer a few of those questions today. So the question we get asked the most is, what are the costs involved with travelling? Now, obviously there's the initial startup cost of buying a vehicle, and that could be vastly different depending on the vehicle you get. However, you can kind of average out the running costs of full-time travel. For example, normally we spend about $200 a week on fuel, about $150 a week on food. You could spend, huge amounts if you're staying in caravan parks, or if you stay in the low cost and free camps here and there. We tend to spend about the $50 mark a week on campsites. There's always little activities and things that you're going to want to do, so they tend to be about $100 a week. So if I was to give you a rough estimate, we probably average around the $500 a week mark in our budget. Now, obviously, that is going to be different week in, week out. Some places you might have heaps of things that you need to pay to do. Other places might be full of national parks or little waterfall walks, and you're not actually spending money doing those. There tends to be free camps around those areas too. So some weeks you can spend as little as $300, but we have definitely had weeks where we've spent upwards of $1,000, sometimes hitting the $2,000 mark, especially if there's mechanic bills in play as well.
You also have to take into account the distance that you're traveling. So some weeks we're only moving from one campsite in a national park to another. So we're not really traveling very far. Other times we're traveling all the way down the coast in 7 days. So we're spending a lot more on fuel. So it's a really hard question to answer. I do overall think that you can live a quite cheap lifestyle on the road. It's getting harder and harder to live cheaply. Just the cost of living obviously anywhere is really difficult at the moment with food costs, but you can generally budget a little bit easier probably than in a household not having electricity. Obviously you can pick and choose the luxuries that you have as well. You can pick and choose what camps you go to, whether they're low cost or they're a little bit more fancy, or if they're a caravan park, which obviously will add up your weekly costs. So you definitely can live cheaply, but it also has the ability to be blown completely out of budget if you want to go and do extra things, and depending on your location in Australia.
Yes, it costs that amount of money per week and you can make it more or less. But the next question is, how do we actually make money on the road? Now, we could do an entire video on this because there are several little income streams you can have on the road. But in a quick version, we work quite a bit still.
Yes.
So obviously while you're at work, we tend to try and work in places where there's sights to see and things to do, so that travel can kind of keep slowly flowing as well. A
lot of jobs also are seasonal, so we often get caravan park work where through their busy season of 6 to 8 weeks, we'll work there doing cleaning or maintenance or office work, and then once the work starts to dwindle a little bit, we can move on from that job. And they're quite happy to have people for these short periods just to fill in that busy season. And you'll be surprised how many places will actually hire you for only a short period of time. Other places may not. You can't really get bar work or retail or anything like that super easily for a short period of time. However, we haven't really delved into that too much. We've had every job on the road, from caravan parks, we've had housekeeping, we've had maintenance, we've had office jobs, we've had cattle station, we've worked on a remote island, and we've worked at a school camp as well. So we've had a fair amount of jobs on the road, but what is really cool about working on the road is the experience and meeting new people. It's a great way to network, to find out about the area, to explore an area. We've worked in places like Port Douglas, where it's very, very expensive normally to holiday there. But because we were working at a nearby caravan park, we got to freely explore that area and the Daintree while we were working. So it's a really, really good way, not only to top up that travel fund, but also have a home base to explore an area. And quite often, if you're working in caravan parks, they'll give you a discounted rate on a site, or sometimes even free.
Obviously, the way you're watching us now is on YouTube, and I feel like quite a few people assume that we make, decent money on YouTube. We don't. It was actually only a couple months ago from the date that we're filming this video that we passed the YouTube threshold to start making money from ad revenue. And even then, I think we're making about $20 a month. Yeah. So currently it's bugger all. It does have the potential to grow depending on how the channel grows over the next few months as well, but it isn't actually an income source for us whatsoever.
Yeah, the aim was never to make YouTube a income stream. It's just really nice that we've gotten to the point where we're able to maybe just cover the cost of our music subscriptions to make the videos, but it's definitely not an income for us at this time. So the next question that we get asked is, how do we find the work on the road? And this comes from a range of different sources. The first one is definitely from Facebook. We have a lot of pages that we're following for different areas around the country that tell us about any opportunities. Caravan parks might post that they're looking for someone, but we also follow the community pages. So if we know that we're heading to an area very, very soon and we want to start work there, I'll join their community Facebook page and scroll through and see if anyone has posted that they're hiring. But we also just do it the old-fashioned way of ringing up a bunch of places and seeing if they're hiring. If you are looking at farm work and station work, there's also companies that you can reach out to that will find the work for you. And quite often the stations, you don't really have a contact for them. It's a word of mouth thing, but they often do advertise on those Facebook pages as well.
You can also look at places like the local supermarket, the post office, the news agents, or like the information centre. A lot of more remote work will advertise through those places and kind of put up flyers or let the workers there know that they're hiring. So you can go and always ask those places and look at the notice boards.
But sometimes it is easier just to do it the old-fashioned way. Give them a ring, send through an email with your resume and hope that they're hiring.
Good old-fashioned job hassling, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. The next question we get, this one is more often that we get it on YouTube, is what camera gear do we use to document our journeys? Well, first and foremost, the thing you're watching us through right now is a GoPro Hero 11. We use this camera probably the most for all our vlogging. It's got a little boom mic on the side of it, which helps a little bit with wind noise, but the main thing is it's waterproof, so we take it in the water, snorkeling or on waterfall hikes all the time. Then if we don't have the GoPro on us because we don't want to walk down the main street with a big vlogging camera, the iPhone 14 that I have is a phenomenal vlogging camera as well. The picture quality on it is awesome, and as far as filming goes, it's got 4K, it's 60 frames per second, it's perfect for YouTube. Works a treat just to whip it out of your pocket and film little bits and pieces as we go about our day.
And then if you've seen any of our photos that we post on our Instagram page, I'm normally taking them on my Canon camera. This one is an EOS M50 Mark II. It's a mirrorless camera. I have 3 different lenses. It's pretty base model camera, but I've enjoyed learning how to take photos and really delving into photography. This is just a really basic camera, but I think the main thing that got me wanting to have a camera instead of using an iPhone is we were in Port Lincoln in the national park there on one of our first weeks traveling, and I saw an emu on the beach right in the distance, and you could not zoom up on the phone, and I just thought, oh, I just wish I had a big enough lens that I could capture that emu walking across the beach. And so ever since then I started researching just really basic cameras and found this one, and it's been really handy just to have those little bit more professional shots than just an iPhone. And yeah, it's been really fun to make a little scrapbook of photography shots.
It also has a very slow recording frame rate as well. So unlike the GoPro and the phone, which you can't really zoom in on, that has the telescopic lens, so you can zoom at a distance. So long as you hold the camera still, you get really cool, artistic, almost vintage style film off that as well. So a lot of the wildlife footage that we get is done on that camera.
Yeah.
And the final piece of camera equipment that we use is our drone. Obviously, it gets the coolest shots of all, up in the sky, filming the van as we're driving through a state forest or something like that. We use it all the time. We love our drone. We have the DJI Mini 2. It's super easy to pilot. You don't need a license for it, and just everything we film in that comes out with a terrific result. So we can't knock it. It's awesome.
And it's also one of the only drones on the market that you don't need a license for because it's under 250 grams.
Yep.
But it's just super lightweight, really small and easy to fly, which was a really great base model drone for us to start with. Would we upgrade now? Maybe, I'm not really sure. It definitely does everything that we want. It's just that the new features on some of the newer models or other models of drones, kind of now that we've got traveling, you're like, oh, that would be cool if it could do this or this, and those other drones do. However, for a base model, it is perfect for what you need it for. Yeah, that's right. They're also really expensive, so it's kind of up to you how much money you want to spend on that. We got a great deal on ours, and then the next jump up to a newer model that's got more features is quite significant, so we'll see how we go. There hasn't been a problem with this one yet, so we'll probably keep using it for a couple years more. Yeah. Okay, next up, how do we find our campsites? We definitely utilize apps mostly. So the two apps we use are Wikicamps and Campermate. Wikicamps especially is great for finding those free camps or little hidden stealth camps. It's also really good just to know about water points and everything like that as well. Campermate definitely is more towards hip camps and paid campsites, but can also be really handy if you use them both together. We also just have word of mouth as well. Word of mouth is a great way to find campsites. We often will go into the visitor center of a place that we're a little bit unsure about and can ask there as well.
Visitor centers are also awesome for getting those brochures of all the things to do in the area. If you're ever stuck on something to do, just go to the local visitor center. You'll get so much information there, and usually the people working there are so friendly and are super willing to help out. They're also a great place to figure out where the best water is, because we've gone to places that have said there's a tap on Wikicamps. We've gone there and the water tastes a bit funky. You go to the visitor center and they say, no, don't do that. Go to this one. It's filtered. It's so much better. And it is. So they're the ones in the know about all the local knowledge. So don't skip out on the visitor centers if you ever need information for anything.
Another question we get often is how we deal with bad weather while full-time traveling.
And to be honest, with great difficulty.
Sometimes it can be really, really hard, but we definitely try and watch the weather. We're looking at the weather every single day. If we know that there's some bad weather coming, we'll try and plan where we're camping based on bunkering down, not really exploring too much, just sitting inside the van. We also have to have a lot of hobbies inside the van, lots of games, reading books, whatever we can do to keep ourselves entertained while there is bad weather and you can't be outside in the beautiful forest like we are right now.
Yeah, it definitely is uncomfortable because we can't stand up, because normally we have to have our pop top down. We can't have the doors open for fresh breeze because the rain will come in. We just have to kind of sit there and play board games, edit videos. That's a great way to pass some time. But also the best thing you can try and do is avoid it if you can, whether that means just going up the road to the next town or something because the storm is just missing it. You just have to keep an eye on the weather and the radar and try and play it a little bit, all right? Sometimes you might have to cancel this plan and go do something else and then come back. You know, you won't always be sticking to a plan because the weather governs how you travel completely.
And it changes the mood so much as well. Like if it is raining for 2 weeks straight, it makes your van life trip pretty miserable, but you just have to try and stay on top of it as much as you can. We generally aren't traveling in peak season, but peak season is because of the weather. So definitely if you think weather is going to affect your travels, travel during the correct season for each part of the country. We tend to avoid it most of the time just so that we get to experience these places without hundreds of people around. However, in the places that we have done it during the correct season, the weather obviously is way better. So you just have to kind of work it out, but it's not a walk in the park for sure.
The next question that we get asked often by people that are our age that we meet at work or by fellow travelers in a campsite is, what meals do we cook on the road? We're super fortunate because we can cook inside our vehicle, so we're not governed by the weather as much. However, just like every traveler, you need your quick and easy meals. Things like burritos or tuna mornay, curries,
stir fries,
pasta, all of those things that are super easy, one pot wonder style things. We will often rinse and repeat and reuse all the time. Both of us are big foodies. We loved cooking. We've done things like roasts. We've made pizzas. We've made homemade pasta and done a full cook-up.
I've also managed to do some baking. You just have to be super resourceful and creative, and it doesn't always turn out exactly like how it would in an oven or how it would at home, but we definitely try and plan our meals based on what we're doing. So if we've got a day where we're arriving at camp super early, we'll get creative, we'll do sushi, we'll do rice paper rolls, we'll do something that needs to be, on the boil for a little while. And then if we're actively traveling and we are going somewhere and we're arriving at camp quite late, that's when you do your meat and 3 veg, your one pot wonder kind of meal. So we definitely still eat really well on the road, and we try and work it out based on where we're getting our groceries from as well, because we have quite a small fridge that we need to try and fit everything in. So there's definitely factors that you have to think about, but we'll meal plan based on what we're doing.
It's also a great idea if you've got those weeks where you are just jam-packed getting stuff done as quickly as possible while you have the time. Meal prepping is another good one. Just some Tupperware containers with all the different elements of a meal, especially for lunches, because having to set up your whole camp just to cook like a toasty or a sausage sanger or something like that is a massive pain in the bum. why not just have your lunch already made and ready to go? This one is my favourite question, and that's why we named our van Joey.
When we first drove Joey, obviously it's a very slow van, so it started by calling him Slow Joe. And then after that, we kind of realised that he's got a bit of a bounce in the front cabin, just like if you're in a bus and it's got a bit of a bounce to it. So it bounces like a kangaroo. That's why we named him Joey.
Our next question we get is, what are the creature comforts that we miss the most?
And we have a little bit of a list for this one. We love van life, don't get me wrong, but there's definitely things and little things that you kind of take for granted in your normal everyday life when you're living in a house or an apartment, that as soon as you move into living out of a vehicle or a caravan or something like that, I'm sure it's the same, you really, really miss. So definitely not having access to a shower and a toilet every day has been a massive adjustment.
It's a big stress, and it takes up such a big chunk of your morning. Again, getting up on wiki camps or something like that, going, where's the nearest toilet? Where's the nearest toilet? I've just had coffee. So yeah.
Yeah, we carry a shower bag, so we can have outdoor showers just by heating up that shower bag on the roof of the car or whatever. But it definitely limits you still, because you can't just go having a shower nude when there's, you know, a national park campsite where there's people around you. So we definitely still have to look out for those shower points. And it's not as good as having a full-on shower. Like, a shower bag does a great job of making you feel a bit fresher, but standing in a warm shower and washing your hair, there's just nothing like it.
So good. Good old everything shower, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And not having a toilet on board. I know there's a lot of people out there that have setups that have the chemical toilets or composting toilets or anything like that. They would work really well. We just simply decided not to have one because we didn't have the space in Joey. On our next build, we may consider it just for the comfort of having that just in case, and also being able to go to free camps that don't have toilet facilities. But we work around it for the most part. I think we have worked around it. It's just something that whenever you do stay at someone's house on the road or whatever, it's really nice to be just able to walk to the toilet and not have to go out in the freezing cold. Another thing is not having to build your bed every day. That was something that just getting into bed we took for granted. Now that we have to build our bed every day, it makes the whole nighttime wind down process a lot longer.
Plus the process of just not throwing something on the bed when you get home from work or something. Like, no, you have to put it in its right spot, otherwise you can't make the bed because there's too much crap in the living space that becomes the bed.
Yep.
So you've got to be very on the ball with keeping things tidy and putting things away where they belong, just so you don't create more work for yourself when it's time to set up a different element of the vehicle.
Yeah. That also goes hand in hand with not having a super comfortable couch. I would much rather be lying on the beach or be in a beautiful forest like this, of course, but some days when the weather is so bad and you're cramped inside the van, even though we have that bed that turns into the living area, it's still you just miss having a comfy couch to lounge on.
It can be mighty uncomfortable in that van when the weather's just smashing down and we're in super close proximity to each other. One thing that I weirdly enjoy, but is something I'd rather not deal with, is having to monitor your electricity and your water and your petrol levels and your gas and stuff like that. Normally, when you're at home in a house, you turn on the tap, water comes out. You turn on a light, you're not worried about how long that light's going to stay on for. In these vehicles and just the compact setup we have, every little piece of electricity you use has to be with reason. You can't just turn lights on and accidentally leave them on, because you will run your batteries flat and then you won't have a fridge that's running. You won't have that fan to help keep you cool at night. You've got to balance it a bit. You've also got to kind of know how long you have to drive to charge the batteries if there's no sun to charge the solar and things like that. We also have 60 litres of water on board, and that's good for about 4 to 5 days of normal use. If it's hotter, you want to be drinking more so you get through that, so then you're constantly looking for the next place to fill up water. We have had several places where we're going to go, oh, I'd love to wash some clothes, so I've got some fresh clothes for the next couple days, and just hand wash them in a bucket, but you can't, because drinking water is so much more important. It is the number one thing you need. Yeah. And having to monitor all of those things and actually think about it to the litre, to the mil, where it's going and what it's doing, it gets old pretty quick.
It's very tiresome. tiresome, and it's just a lot of brain power. You already have a lot of brain power in planning where you're going to sleep at night. Sometimes that planning alone takes a long time, and we definitely didn't realize that it was going to take up that much time before we came traveling, especially full-time traveling. It's not like planning a little holiday where you just, you know, plan your few days, you go and that you do it, you enjoy it, and you come back home. We are constantly trying to figure out the best way, the cheapest way, the most efficient way to see this beautiful country. And it does take a lot of planning and a lot of thinking. Yeah.
And the biggest creature comfort or thing that you miss on the road is being constantly surrounded by friends and family. We're still lucky that we are traveling in our own country. So we have still been able to get a Christmas in here and there. We've been able to go to a birthday here and there. It's very quick trips home. So it does feel very rushed.
As with any travel, you're obviously going to miss being around the people that you're familiar with. We do meet heaps of amazing people on the road that become like our van life family.
Travel family.
Family, yeah. Especially when we're working somewhere, that's a really great way to make sure that we're staying social with other people, and we love chatting with people at work. But at the same time, we also see our family and friends from back home doing really awesome things, and we miss those really big moments sometimes. We're not always able to come from the other side of the country, and that sometimes can get really hard. We love doing what we do, and we just have to make more of an effort that when we are home, we really soak it in.
Our last question is, where have we travelled and how far have we travelled? Well, as for how far, that is in my service book here. Now, we bought Joey with 247,000 kilometres on the clock. He currently has 283,000 kilometres on the clock, meaning that in the last 3 years, we've only travelled 36,000 Ks.
Yeah, which isn't very far, but we do kind of have an explanation.
Yeah.
For the most part, we have travelled quite slow in Joey. We've obviously stopped for work a lot, and we've obviously had to take things a lot slower just because he is a lot slower of a vehicle to drive. We've also had a lot of mechanical issues that has held us up in a few different places around Australia. So we started in South Australia, we went all the way along the coast, did a couple of the peninsulas of South Australia, then we went up through the centre all the way to Uluru, saw the centre of Australia, all the way to Darwin. Then we came back down a little bit, went west over to Exmouth, where we had our first major breakdown. If any of you guys have watched that video, when we were in Exmouth, we broke down. Yes, quite a few videos. When we were in Exmouth, we broke down pretty severely and ended up having to somehow fix it ourselves enough to drive to Perth and then truck it all the way back to Will's parents' house in New South Wales to do a complete engine rebuild, which obviously meant that we cut that whole section of Western Australia, which we will be going back to eventually, but we had to cut that whole section off. Then from there, we went through New South Wales all the way up to outback Queensland, around back to the coast again, and did the coast of Queensland before coming down the coast of New South Wales. And we've done the Great Ocean Road all the way back to South Australia again. So in the 3 years, we've kind of chopped our way around the country a little bit. A couple of different trips on the tow truck for Joey.
Yeah, he's done a few Ks on a truck, yeah.
But overall, just taking things a little bit slower has meant that we haven't done as many Ks, but I kind of prefer it that way. We've seen the country very slowly, but we also still have done a fair chunk of it.
Definitely.
So there are our most asked questions. If you have any other questions, please feel free to leave them below in the comments section.
We'll answer them down there.
Yeah, but otherwise we'll see you in the next video.
See you guys.